and I knew it was bad, but give me a break. There were floors of the courthouses, plural, that were
Empty.
just empty and like not even like well lit. Like it's just like middle of the day,
Like
nobody's
Zombieland.
around.
Okay. All right. So,
Celebratory beer.
yes, cheers.
I'm having one too.
Yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to.
Shouldn't be allowed to.
So we had a bet. We picked a random day, Tuesday at 1:30. And we had a bet. There are 39 judges of how many would be there. And I said, I bet there's not 12 in the courthouse, right?
And you were right. There weren't even 12. I forget how many I said. Honestly, I'll have to go back and look. I usually think of myself as a cynic.
Yeah.
But I knew it was bad, but give me a break. There were floors of the courthouses, plural, that were
Empty.
just empty and like not even like well lit. Like it's just like middle of the day,
Like
nobody's
Zombieland.
around.
It's Zombieland. It is the apocalypse. It is COVID level. I mean,
It really is. It was like when you had to go over there for something in COVID.
Yeah.
It was very much like that. Now, I think right off the bat, we have to acknowledge this is July 4th week.
Mhm.
We know that there will be some vacations. It is a week that is a little bit more likely to be a vacation week just because you're automatically going to get one of those days. But we also looked at a lot of the judges' dockets to see if they had been canceled or if they were taking off, who was on vacation. And
yeah, there were no family court judges that were on vacation. Now, I will say Division 10, Derwin Webb said no docket for today.
Okay.
So we had 3 of 10 family court judges, and we are being very lenient with one judge because that judge we didn't actually see, but we did see an attorney walk out and say that they'd had a hearing. So I think it's reasonable to deduct that they were working. Now, if they were wrapping up at 1:30 for the day, I guess that's the life that he was elected to.
I don't think there was much. It couldn't have been much of a hearing, a long hearing. Probably something more perfunctory or a CMC type thing to be finished by the time we ran into that attorney. But
also, that attorney seemed like in a jovial mood.
It didn't seem like normally you come out of a heated hearing. It seemed
Yeah.
So it didn't seem like it was major business going on in there. But
so
never
you
know.
hadn't been to district court in a minute, right?
It had been months since I walked through there, maybe a year almost since I walked through there. It's been probably 2 or 3 years since I've practiced a case there.
So the first thing you said when we walked in, you're like, why are there so many sheriff's office? I'm like, they're always there because the courtrooms aren't open.
Yeah, so inside, right where you come through the metal detectors now, there's a larger area roped off with a bunch of chairs and just a ton of sheriffs sitting around talking. And I don't mean to disparage them by saying they're sitting around, but they're sitting in the chairs, they're having conversations. And it was almost a little intimidating when you walk through the metal detector. There's that much law enforcement like right there. And it didn't occur to me for 1 second that those were the sheriffs, the deputies that were in the courtrooms. And they're just, when they're not having court, there's nothing for them to do.
Yeah, I'm a huge
at the
fan too of
moment.
the sheriff's office. They work really, really hard. And I certainly don't think they're as frustrated, in my opinion, with the fact that there's no court. They know they couldn't work like that.
But yeah, it didn't occur to me. I walked in, I was like, that's kind of odd. That seems like pretty heavy on the enforcement side, right inside like the metal detectors. And I didn't realize, these are just the people whose courtrooms are closed and they don't have a courtroom to be in right now. That was amazing. And it also, what was it? The whole first floor.
Whole first floor. So there's
nothing
3
was going
floors for the
on.
Hall of Justice. And that's wicked old. Like the Hall of Justice needs a renovation.
It
Not
looked
that
like they didn't have like 2 lights on in the place. It was
Seriously.
dark. I would have, if I didn't know any better and hadn't seen the place before, I would have walked in and thought, oh, did I come on a day when they're not open?
Yeah.
And I guess I'd be partially right.
The first floor was completely not a courtroom open. I don't think we had any sort of court staff. We may have run into one person from the prosecutor's office in a side room. I can't remember if that was on the first or second floor. Second floor. So total we had 6. What did we have? 2 on the second floor and 3 on the second and 3 on the third, which is 6 out of 16. I'm not very good at math. What's that percentage? A little more than a third, right?
It's just shocking.
Oh, man.
That was really, Yeah. I mean, I know when I worked over in district court, mostly I would try to get everything on the 9 o'clock docket. I didn't do a whole lot on the 1, and I knew a lot of attorneys. Most of the attorneys were there on the 9 o'clock docket. I didn't see that many ever on the 1 o'clock docket. And a lot of that was generally it was easier to get in and get out and get your stuff done at 9 o'clock because attorneys were over there and they would get the attorneys in and out
Yeah.
quickly. And it seemed like a lot more pro se over in district court on the afternoon docket. So I just assumed that it was sort of a madhouse, sort of like the cattle call, largely pro se dockets over in family court.
Well, that's
So
the other thing too. There really weren't even any people in the
no,
courthouse.
that
Like,
it was just nothing was going on.
right.
Like it was, we could just walk around unnoticed. Like we had a couple people that, oh, can we help you? It was just odd that we were even there.
Yeah.
People were wondering why people are, why are you even here today?
I don't even know if I ran into an attorney that I recognize on that side
No,
of the courthouse. I don't
didn't.
think we did.
I didn't see an attorney over in the court.
I saw one.
Oh, well, we did. Now, the courtrooms that were open, I looked in, I did recognize people.
Yeah.
There were people that were sitting inside the courtroom, but generally walking through, I mean,
But this is how district court is run. That's my understanding, is that there's going to be 6 in the afternoon, 6 in the morning. So still, you only have 12 courts with 16 judges. Like, obviously, there's going to be juvenile court, which is going to be confidential, and I understand that. And it's my understanding that we do have a juvenile court judge that does work and is doing a hell of a job. From my understanding, I've never seen it in real time because of the confidentiality aspect.
sure.
But it's just a population of that many people, the backlog that they have in Jefferson County. You could make a traffic ticket last 4 years, There is zero excuse for the courtroom not to be hustling and bustling between the hours of at least 10 and 3 on a weekday.
Yeah, I mean, it was shocking to me, but I don't know those dockets as well. I know that I don't remember, in my time working on probate and things like that, I don't remember the dockets being anything that I needed to get done being delayed for months and months and months, the way that things are regularly over in circuit court and especially over in family court. So
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it was just sort of shocking to be over there and it looked like nothing was going on and the place was pretty much closed. I don't know how that ties in, how backed up the dockets and everything are. That I didn't touch that very much in the last couple of years of my litigation. The family courts, I know, are backed up.
Yeah.
I know how long it takes to get rulings out of so many of the divisions. I know that there are school choice issues that are, people are waiting on pins and needles to figure out
for
where they
sure.
need to enroll their child before deadlines. We have all kinds of things that needed to be decided yesterday that are going to be sitting for more months. So that's the part, because it was part of my regular daily practice that really shocked me the most. It was that the family court
There were three.
seemed completely dead, other than, I mean, we had one floor that just nobody was on it. Now there was court going on in one of the divisions.
Yeah.
And I think there was a hearing going on, but otherwise you wouldn't even know that was open. It was just a ghost town on that floor. And for the most part, the circuit court building was like that. We saw one attorney with their client sitting out. We saw on one floor 2 that would look like pro se litigants or witnesses waiting to be called into a hearing.
Oh, that
then
was he was an attorney. He's a great guy. I'm not going to say his name on this podcast. That was talking to those 2 females for circuit court.
Oh, no. That's I had forgotten that. There were 2 people that were just sitting in the
Oh,
chairs.
right.
And then there was, outside one of the circuit court courtrooms, there was a whole pool of juries waiting to get called in. I mean, of jurors waiting to get called in, presumably for a jury trial that was going on. Other than that, there was nothing going on that floor. And it was, I think by the time we were over there, 1:45 on
Yeah.
a Tuesday. I just, yeah. I'm cynical, but I really expected something different. I did not know that there were that few people at work.
Yeah, and there
at
were
that moment.
2 or 3 circuit court judges on the bench, which is, well, I guess one, was a jury trial going on, but still, that is an astronomical amount of money that taxpayers are paying. I really think if you go to the counties, you're going to see that the courtrooms are going to be open. And I don't think people realize, too, that haven't been to Jefferson County, that when their courtrooms are literally locked. Like if you think you're supposed to be there that day or you have something you got subpoenaed for the wrong day or you have a question, you can't even talk to a staff member. Like the door is locked. Like you don't get access to Division 7. You don't get access to Division 10, whatever the division may be. But neither of those people were there today.
Yeah. And I fully recognize that some of the judges could have been there. They could have had something that settled the last minute, and they're sitting in the back and they decide, well, I'm going to make use of this time. I'm going to write orders. I get that. But knowing every motion hour that I would go to and ask for a hearing, how many months down the road to get that hearing? Sometimes, I mean, I would imagine that family court practitioners here in Jefferson County are almost to the point where they're scheduling things next year.
Yeah.
And some of the divisions will probably be scheduling in 2026 for things that I imagine their clients and the clients' kids feel are urgent, but they're not going to be able to get in front of the judges until next year. So I understand that you're not going to be in court all the time, but this is, in most of the divisions, regular circuit docket time where you could be having hearings and moving through and getting some of those cases done.
And hearing what the litigants or what the constituents of Louisville need. And also, so I think Tuesday is also important just in this whole narrative. I never knew any judge to pick Tuesday as a writing day. When I was in private practice, I never wanted to write on a Tuesday because motion hours are so intense. Really, I would be much more in litigation mode Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Sure.
You know, and then Thursday to me was a big writing day because Friday you really can I like to get stuff resolved on a Friday. Everybody's in a good mood. You can call opposing counsel, talk to your client. Mediations are great on Fridays. But a Tuesday between 1:30 and 2, I think it's shocking. And also, let's just take a step back. If they are in the back writing, there is zero reason that their courtroom should be locked to the general public. Because there are 2 safeguards for somebody being able to get back into chambers. I mean, it would be an impossible thing to happen. But the courtrooms, taxpayer-funded courtrooms should be open during working hours for people to go sit in, observe.
Well, I'm just thinking, the number of times in my litigation practice where I needed a judge for something.
Yeah.
And I mean, it used to be a lot easier to find. You used to be able to get, go buzz in and get to the back in chambers after COVID. Understandably, that the protocol changed for it, but then became, there's just a lot of gatekeeping now. And then with the courtrooms locked, it's just, they're closed off to the public.
Yeah, I don't even know what you would do if you had an emergency. I can't think of what floor we were on where there wasn't a single judge. But so for reference, when you needed somebody in the back, you go to the corner and you'll hit buzz to get to 4 different judges. But I wonder if we would have done that if there would have even been anyone that answered.
5th floor on the at 7th and Jefferson at the Judicial Center.
So that would be
And
7.
Oh, it was the 9th and the 7th floor. No, sorry, the 5th and the 9th. We didn't find anybody. And then the 1st floor over at the Hall of Justice.
Nobody.
Not a single person. So it also, if as a practitioner, there are regular times where I would have to get permission to look at a family court file.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them are confidential or they're juvenile docket, and you need to get someone to sign to let you into that file. And those kind of orders are pretty perfunctory. You just have to find a judge to sign them. But the last couple years, I've found it very hard to find someone. And you often run the risk, if you find a judge that's not the presiding judge on the case and you get them to sign it, then all of a sudden you're at odds with the judge that's presiding over the case when they see that other judges are signing orders that let you into their case.
Okay, so let's back up with that. That's like a civil war right there. So if I've got a case in front of 2, can't find 2, or I go to 3 to get them to sign an order, I mean, that is something that the judges hate.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, it's in my experience, they sort of quit doing it. I mean, they would just be like, no, you've got to find this other person or get them on the phone. But there are real life consequences of not being able to get access to a judge. Also, to some degree, to me, it's just silly to even have this conversation and the notion we have 39 judges that are paid between $130,000 and $160,000 a year, and there was less than a third, if my math is right, and I'm a lawyer, so don't trust it, but less than a third of the judges you could get access to as a constituent to either observe, go to court, have an open courtroom. Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
It was shocking to me. I hate to lose the bet, but I will admit that I was wrong. You nailed it almost to the number.
And we talk a lot about how you're 3 months out of practicing full time. I'm almost 2.5 years, I think. And so I think the further away I get from the practice of it, the day ins, the day outs, I sort of realize how messed up the whole system is. But I did get this great beer, but I forgot how spicy these are. I mean, it's wicked good, but like also my mic is different than your mic. Like we got to figure this out so I can drink and talk at the same time.
Well,
goals.
it sounds like a skill issue.
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about, what did we talk about last time that was so oh, of course, we're going to pick a different time to go down to the courthouse. We won't give them an update, but it will be, I think the parameters need to be before 4 o'clock. I think we need to give them grace on that. We'll never do anything before 9 and we'll never do anything before after 4.
Yeah, true. And also we need a way to figure out who's actually present, but there's not the way that the gatekeeping is set up, it's hard to tell whether a judge is there because they have good staff. The staff does a good job of guarding them and protecting their time, and I get that. I would want the exact same thing.
Well, let's think about it though the opposite way though. It's they work for us. They're on our dime. I'm paying their salary. You're paying their salary. A kid that's flipping burgers at McDonald's over the summer is paying their salary.
I get it, but they know. I mean, the staff knows whose team they're on and all, and if their judges, their judge has a pile of files on the desk and they need to get through it and they're working through it and they do a little gatekeeping to protect the judge's time so they can write orders. I get that too. It just, what I'm saying is it can make it hard for us to know whether people are actually at the courthouse or not, regardless of whether the courtrooms are open or not.
I tell you what, we should send them a sign. We should have them be, they could put it on the front. Flip if you're in the office, flip if you're out of the office under Scout's honor. I'm happy to donate that to all of them, and I'll send them an email saying, y'all, we want to know when you're at the courthouse. I think one of the biggest things that would be beneficial would be for them to do timesheets. I want to know how much you're working. I want to know when you're getting in the building, when you're leaving, because Lord knows, we know there is this whole rumor out there that, or misbelief, and this is how it used to be, and this is how it is in other counties, but that they're doing a whole lot of work after hours. I mean, in Louisville, they have an on-call system where staff attorneys are doing stuff. That they are not sitting at home getting their dinner interrupted for a phone call like they do in the counties or like they did back in the day, at least in my experience.
Yeah. I don't know. We can make nice fancy signs that look nice outside the courtroom.
Yeah.
It would just be interesting to know. I'm fascinated by this now. You raised it the last time we were on camera, and I thought it would be an interesting exercise, but I really was shocked today that it felt like it felt like summer vacation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it felt like when, I bet it would be a similar experience if I went to one of my kids' schools right now. I'd see 2 or 3 people there, here and there, but it would be obvious that it was closed and no business was being done there. That's how it felt at the courthouse today. So
I think I told you too when we were walking, I was like, it's wrong because I was right, but I feel bad. Like I almost wanted to just go. There have been so many times in this last 2 years where I'm just like, do something that will allow me to stop feeling a moral obligation to look into this. Just do your job, and so I can go back to being an attorney and making a great living and not feeling like, a moral obligation to say, this is what they are doing to people.
There are a lot of topics just in that statement.
No doubt.
Wow.
3 sips of a beer in. It's been a unique journey, and I think it'll be interesting to see where you land on it, like, throughout the space, because there was a time when I wanted nothing to do with it. When I left family law, I ran in the exact opposite direction of it. Didn't read cases, didn't talk about it, didn't want to give any sort of advice, and then felt compelled to come back in after hearing some stuff and obviously after the selfie recording. And then once I filed the JCC complaint, I went back in that world. I'm done talking about this. The system is going to fix itself. And then that didn't happen, and then you hear more stories. But I also feel like from my public defender days or just people in the community, you see that it's happening not just at family court, it's district and circuit.
Yeah, and well, I mean, one thing we've learned since launching,
Yeah.
we the stuff that's coming in from the entire country. I mean, it sounds like the exact same thing everywhere. And I guess I didn't realize it so much because basically for 3 months after I stopped practicing, I stopped reading opinions unless they
Mhm.
were appeals that I had pending or, things where, I mean, I definitely cared about the cases I was involved with clients that I cared about, but I stopped paying attention to other people's cases and I took a break, sort of a mental break from it. Then stepping back in and hearing all that people report, like tons of people every single day reaching out to us with stories about what happened and this happened and that happened, from attorneys, from
Mhm.
litigants, from people that are um you know might be a CASA worker or something similar in another state that they just see happening in the courtroom where they regularly work. It brings me back to a couple of cases that led me to practice less in court and to more. I mean, I knew that in my practice, I needed to delegate more, run teams. We were expanding out into other states and needed to be a business person and help grow. But I also didn't realize that there were a couple court experiences where I saw families and kids being torn apart by uh, improper procedure and judges who were just in a bad mood or didn't like what somebody filed and would threaten to take a child away that moment with no warning that they would have to switch homes just because they were angry, that I was avoiding. I mean, I was just pulling back from my own personal involvement in the
Mhm.
cases in my own court work because um, it was so frustrating. It was intensely stressful, but also it felt like more and more my experiences over in the family court made me look down upon the profession a little bit.
Oh,
Like it
yeah.
was something that I really, as an attorney, you realize the role you play in people's lives, the role you play in the law. In I mean, you're part of this big system, and there's this whole grand idea that, basically, especially people in litigation, have to believe in order to endure the stress and keep going and have a positive mental attitude. But it was undermined, 50% of the time I was over there actually in court, that if I work hard, if I prepare, if I learn the rules better than anybody else, that I'll succeed,
Mhm.
where none of that matters. And it was just sort of a roll of the dice and what mood, certain people were in, or, what a court appointed person says, even though they've never talked to anyone in the case, what they decide to make up that day. It really made a huge difference in my willingness to continue just day-to-day litigation. And I was more than happy to hand off most everything outside of some, you know, larger ongoing cases to other people. I didn't reflect on that well enough until some of the stuff I started revisiting those
Mhm.
cases when we started talking. We started reading through um, things that people submitted to us, and it started just to ring true that, oh yeah,
Oh,
this
this is a
had made a
pattern.
big big difference in my own personal journey to sort of pull back and not be litigating any.
Well, and a lot of the comments that I've gotten from people is they really believe that the attorneys are in on the scheme. And I think it's hard to explain, and by no means are we the victims, in the same regard that litigants are, that it's involving their children, their marriage, their
That's
life,
a
their
really really
finances.
good point,
Yeah, I mean, that being said,
because we're getting paid
yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
matter how the outcome is,
Yes.
what the outcome is and how it happens. So
Or we're volunteering our time and not getting paid and, lose it, but it's it's a mess, and there's so many attorneys that, like, I talk to that are just broken, but they have got the mindset that, "Okay, listen, this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna get everything resolved outside of court." So they
Mhm.
go that through that pattern for 6 to 8 months.
Oh
And
yeah.
then there's something that has to go to court, and they're like, "You won't believe the ruling I just got." You can tell that the judge didn't look at anything.
Oh yeah.
And so then it's the mental health spiral of the attorney realizing this isn't working. And you have attorneys, when I left, I was 37. But you have attorneys that are 55, 60. They're so close to retirement. And it's really difficult to be in a system and see it as just an objective outsider. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
which is why when I went into the school system, that's what changed me talking about this in the way I did. Because I was in the school system like, y'all, this is nuts. There ain't no way this is how it's supposed to go if we're talking about educating kids. And everyone was like, well, this is how we've always done it. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is how my clients feel in family
I was
court.
about to say, how many times have you heard when you've said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would we do it that way? That's just the way that it works here. Like when you're talking about, especially some of the dependency, neglect, and abuse dockets, or if you have a guardian ad litem who is just an attorney representing a child,
Mhm.
starts dictating things like a judge, making recommendations and telling you the way it has to be. And you're thinking, you don't get, how do you get to do that?
Who
Well,
are
that's just
you?
the way that it works. And the judge is going to say to do what I
Mhm.
tell you to do. And you're thinking, but you're not a judge. You don't have any authority in the case.
Yeah.
And then you start realizing that the system is just turned into this machine. And I start looking at it from the point of view of a litigant that's coming into that and realizing you're just at everyone's mercy. And it's hard not to see the attorneys as part of that. And some of them might be, if you just sort
Yeah.
of accept that. There are ways to navigate it. You can say to a client, and I'm sure that you experience this too, and for years I did, that number one, we're going to stay out of court. If we
Yeah,
go to court,
for sure.
you're rolling the dice. You don't know what's going to happen, X, Y, and Z, especially if you're at a stage in the case where you know who your judge is going to be. You could tell stories from past cases that were similar, but to explain why you don't want to go to court, but also set them up for, okay, this person was appointed to represent your children. Here's how they're going to operate. They're going to tell you what to do. Well, why do I have to listen to them and not to the judge? Yes, I understand that, but that's the way that it works. And the judge is going to do whatever this person says. And it's just, you can warn clients about it and you can navigate it and you can make the best decisions and give the best representation. But it's hard not to, when you're saying there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
That's the way that it is. Here's why you need to follow their direction, even if they're wrong, because the judge will sign off on it. And if you don't, then you have no chance in front of the judge. After a while, you're just like, navigating this isn't really what I want to do. I want to change. I want to see this work the way that it's supposed to work.
Well, acquiescing to authority without the ability to question it has literally led to every tragedy that's ever happened in this country, in this nation, in this world, from the history, from the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. And I do think the court system is going to be the next one where we really see how problematic it has become over the last 30 years. In particular, after the pandemic, I think there was a realization of the ability to work part-time and work remote. And I think they leaned into that in a way that I can't even fully articulate.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love virtual court.
Ugh.
I preferred it because especially toward the end of my litigation career, I did document heavy cases. I did mostly financial stuff. And if you want someone to turn to the page and actually look through stuff, it's so much easier to put it up on the screen and highlight it to where everyone that's looking at the same screen will be reading it, and to keep people's attention and to make sure that's in the record. That gets recorded in the record. Whereas if I did that in person and then later had to write an appeal about it, good luck finding an intact binder. Like I was very good at keeping them, but you'd have to keep a physical binder and you'd have to dig through it. Whereas virtually, it's all right there on the record and you can review every single bit of it. And frankly, I enjoyed, I had a space. I would take over a conference room and sort of just build a
Yeah.
space with all the space I need for everything. And I'd put the computer or whatever at either a standing desk or a laptop that would be up so I could stand and feel like I was at the courtroom. I
Yeah.
like to stand when I talk, and I could just be very comfortable talking in front of the camera. So I enjoyed it. And I don't mean to say everything should go back to in person, because to a certain extent, especially when you have witnesses from out of town, you get a big case and you have people from out of town, having people be able to appear and the judges being very gracious, and or the opposing counsel especially, can we go out of order? My guy get
Yeah.
off from 1 to 1:30. Can we do his testimony and take a break and do it right at that time so they can be available? I never had anybody give me any trouble about that, and it was only possible through the remote stuff. But you are absolutely right. I started experiencing the same thing during COVID and then after, to where hearings would get rescheduled and there would be no real explanation and neither litigant knew why.
Yeah.
Like all of this in court was just canceled, or there's large parts of dockets that just weren't available, and they weren't district court docket days. They just there was not.
They weren't there.
It was inexplicable. And like today, how many of the courts did we go to that had a docket posted for the week that showed
They were there.
what was going to be there?
Yeah.
I didn't see that on most of the courts. Like it used to be, they outside the court, you would see the docket for the day, you would see the docket for the week. Couldn't even tell.
Oh, so they would have a breakdown like 15 minutes for this, 15 minutes for that, 15
Yeah.
minutes for that.
They'd
You
have
know, they don't
a
really.
weekly calendar.
Yeah, they had the weekly calendar, and they all had a weekly calendar for family court that said they would be there at this time, I believe, except for Division 10.
Well, they weren't posted at the courthouse. I mean,
Oh,
maybe
online.
on the website.
Yeah.
You know, we were looking when I was over there. It was hard without going to the website to look at that. But you're right. I mean, we reviewed all that stuff before going over there, looking to see if court was canceled
Yeah.
today, if there was no docket today, so we could understand why someone would be there.
And just for clarification, too, if they were doing a quote-unquote remote hearing, the doors would have been unlocked because we did walk into a circuit hearing that had remote litigants
Yeah,
on there.
no, that's
If
right.
the court's open, it's open. They're not going to have the courtroom locked. So
No, that's right.
they weren't conducting a hearing even remotely.
Oh, it's one of the weirdest things you could ever, if you walk in, I've walked in before looking for a judge's signature. I saw them on the bench, thought that they weren't on the record. I didn't see the light because they had something sitting kind of up in the way and didn't realize they were in the middle of a remote hearing. And I walk in and they're screens so they can see the people on the screens,
Yeah.
but there was no one else in the courtroom. And it was a functioning hearing. It felt so strange because you had a judge and then a bunch of people on TV screens, but it works.
Well, there are things
At
that
least
I
in my
think
opinion, it works.
there are
I
things
like
that
it.
can be remote, but there are things that cannot. There are things that you cannot tell by the demeanor of a person. I'm not talking necessarily about like financial stuff, where a lot of that in circuit court could be done too by submission, maybe not family court, but there are certain things, or deposition has often happened, that are submitted to the court and then adopted. But I struggle with the notion of not giving people, kids, giving domestic violence orders, giving any sort of those things on a remote screen. I mean, and just to back up a little bit, during COVID, they could have made a system that was better. They could have made some sort of order that's like, hey, we're going to do this. We have 10 judges that all have different rules or different preferences for things. But clearly, this remote hearing aspect has worked into them getting a part-time gig.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I have a different view on it. If you're representing victims of domestic violence, I can't tell you how many times I've sat in and being in the courtroom with the accuser. I mean, with the accused, with the respondent, especially in a case where someone has just suffered a long relationship of abuse, not able to testify properly. Just
That's evidence.
paralyzed. Yes,
Perfect. You're giving my point.
No,
You've
no.
proven my point.
I agree, but at the same time, well, you're right. My opinion is colored as from my experience as a litigator.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I could go through that testimony much easier sitting
No doubt.
in
Easier.
easier.
But-
But also, you mentioned depositions. I mean, how easy it was for me to just pop up a video of someone at a deposition to contradict their statement. Whereas if you're sitting in the courtroom to get it to play, that's like 10 minutes lost to get the everything working. You've lost your moment to contradict them. And by the time you get it to play in the courtroom, because the AV stuff is so bad, no one remembers what the question was anymore. Whereas I can have it queued up, just waiting for them to answer the question and say something in the affirmative or in the negative, and just be like, oh, well, that's not what you said 3 days ago. And I could play it very
Yeah.
quickly on the video. There's some things that lended itself very well to.
But are you ready for me to get weird?
you
So
weirder?
if that's the case, no, seriously, think about this though. We've got our courthouse probably $100 million, I'd say, at least. I mean, it's a gorgeous, the Judicial Center,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Nice building.
But so why don't we just, and I think the TikTok judge would love this. We'll buy her an O-Light. But why don't we just get an industrial complex in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and let them go sit in cubicles and just hear cases all day. And then we can take that 100 million property, we can make that into very legitimate things that will help the community.
You mean it could sit empty like all the other buildings downtown?
No, we'll make it into something. We'll make it into housing. Hell, we'll make it a hotel with a roof
Yeah.
deck bar.
Wow.
I mean, imagine down there. But it is a waste of hundreds of millions, at least tens of millions of dollars. But they don't need to be sitting in these fancy
Yeah, I
courthouses.
wouldn't call that thing 100 million. It's not that beautiful, but
Oh,
it's
you'll make another bet?
It's Yes,
I
actually.
guarantee you.
I've got all the beer in the world to bet. I'm good.
I guarantee you that the AOC paid more than $100 million for the judicial complex.
It is a government
Yeah.
paying for a contract.
But we'll bet a beer. I say over 100. Hey, listen. I'm wrong.
I will take that. I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong. I'm not happy that I was wrong today, but I think I'll win this one.
And I'm not happy that I was right. I think there's a lot of conversations, we talk about how, like, I'm crazy, Christine, ha ha ha, in a funny way. And I think two things can be true at the same time. I'm crazy and these judges aren't doing their job adequately. But that being said, I did almost, after we left, I thought, Christine, that was a little crazy for you to say 12 or less people. Like, I was like, you should have bet more. So my feelings are hurt.
I felt like when we left the studio last time after recording, I had a pretty good shot. But I was way wrong. I mean, it was because it was a Tuesday and it was an afternoon.
Yeah.
It wasn't long after lunch. So this is, I can understand. I mean,
none of them were still at lunch.
I never
per their
would
docket.
have, even when my office was downtown, I was 2 blocks from the courthouse. If it was after 3 o'clock, unless it was an emergency for my client and somebody was in danger, I would never bother to go over after 3 because I would never expect to find a judge.
Yeah.
But 1:30 on a Tuesday?
On a Tuesday. And I cannot stress the importance. I know I already said this, but y'all, Mondays and Tuesdays are the days that they should be working. 9:30 to 3 o'clock. I mean,
9:30 to
genuine, like.
Wow, aim high.
I know. But it's like, those are the 2 days that I do feel like I have the most optimism that the elected judiciary of Louisville is actually working.
I mean, I get that. I mean, there's multiple of those judges had district court dockets on Tuesday. I mean, they happen on Tuesday, and if you get through them all by lunch.
Explain it.
What do you mean?
You're saying district court?
Oh, sorry. So, in the family court system here, it can work different in different counties, but our judges, especially in Jefferson County, have certain dockets that are in district court in non-family court jurisdictions. So I refer to them as district dockets. We're talking about paternity, we're talking about domestic violence, we're talking about dependency, neglect, and abuse that are heard in concurrent jurisdiction. They're heard in family court in Jefferson County. So if you're not chief judge, you have those 3 dockets every single week. So some of your days are taken up, and they may last all day. They may not last all day. You may get through your docket in the morning. You may go to the back and write orders.
Well, this is one thing the legislator could clean up. So, like, back when I first started practicing, I was in counties that didn't have family court. But with the inception of family court, prior to that, our Constitution gave what we call concurrent jurisdiction of family court matters to district and circuit.
Yep.
And so if you filed a paternity action or a child support action, dependency, neglect, and abuse, that would go to the district judge in that jurisdiction.
Yep.
If you filed a circuit court action, which would be a divorce or a circuit custody action, that would go to the circuit judge, which allowed for forum shopping. But our family court judges, anywhere there is a family court, they still hold these different dockets. And I do think our legislator could clean that up, and that would go a long way into getting some efficiency.
Oh, sure. You mean clear it up and keep it with district court for some of the dockets?
I would just say if there's a family court, then they don't need to be determined or allocated as a district court docket. Like, there's no reasoning for that. The only person that benefits, quite frankly, is the county attorney.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I've always had mixed feelings about it because all of those things have the potential to lead to circuit court family actions. So you have the idea that you have one family, one judge. So if it starts off as just domestic violence or a paternity action, child support action, it could be that it leads to a bigger family court custody action, or dependency, neglect, and abuse can become a custody action later, or a domestic violence hearing could later play a role in divorce that may not happen for several years after the domestic violence district court docket. And having the same judge over that makes a lot of sense. One judge that understands everything that's going on and sees all of this.
In theory, not in practice, in my opinion.
Well, yes, in theory, it makes a lot of sense. And I've practiced before judges who I take that very seriously and remember,
the good old days?
Especially with small, well, no, I'm just talking about in smaller towns where
No, I
they
know.
know everybody. They will remember, okay, you were in here on a domestic violence docket, how are things going? And that'll be on the divorce docket later. So it seems important for the judge to know, but I also understand that those 3 dockets take up a lot of time for
Not
the
today,
family
they
court
didn't.
judges. That's what was shocking to me. So in my head, I'm always thinking, okay, legitimately, judges have motion hours on Monday. They have these 3, if they're not the chief judge, they have these 3 other dockets, and then the rest of the week that's left over is what they have to deal with all of the circuit family divorce and custody actions, adoptions, those kinds of things. And to a certain extent, when I was practicing, I understood why it took so long to get a hearing before the judges, because they may have 3 days out of their week that are taken up on these dockets, and that's just part of their job, but they're not getting any other work done on those days. But then you go over to the court and you realize that I'm sure that people were in court yesterday at motion hour who would have killed
For
to
hearing
have some
today.
time with a judge today, and they have things that greatly affect the safety or the mental health of a child, or great financial potential harm for waiting when let's say the parties can't decide who's going to control a certain financial account, and then you have certain political things happen that might cause uncertainty that could
Yeah.
cause a great loss or gain
Oh, the
in a
market?
financial
Yeah.
asset, and then you're going to have to wait 6 or 7 months, and it's chaos. You don't know who's going to be maintaining that, or maybe nobody gets to make a decision. It just sits and continues to lose money. I've seen it many times. Those people would love to have been over there to hearing today
Yeah.
in any one of these closed courtrooms.
Yeah.
And I know that there were attorneys yesterday who were probably being told end of the year, maybe early next year, for a hearing on even minor matters in a case. So it makes absolutely no sense why the doors are locked and the lights are off at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday.
It is nuts. I did get a message from someone that I've been talking to, and y'all, I've got sources. I mean, you name it, I've got sources after doing this for as long as I have. But somebody said, "Thank you so much. I was in motion hour yesterday, and the judge actually seemed prepared." Now, I don't know what division that was, but I think the point of this is I think that us going to the courthouses, or that might make them start coming to court, because we're going to start doing this. At least I'm going to start doing this weekly. I mean, the look on your face when we did it, you were shocked. I could tell. I was out of breath.
I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked. It was just really disappointing, just because I remember Monday, the end of Monday was one of the worst times, because you're done with
Yeah.
motion hour and it's time to talk to your clients about, generally, I mean, every now and then it would be you lost on a motion or something. You had to say what the judge ruled or whatever. You had to give bad news, but generally it was just explaining how ineffective the system was. Yes, I brought the motion today. Yep. You got a hearing in December. Oh, but what happens? It's all going to be gone by December. Yep, that's the best that could be done. The judges, everything's just so backed up, and nothing can actually get done in the courthouse, and making excuses for the system and all that, to get over there and see that probably actually isn't the case at all. Just nobody's actually working.
Maybe they're in the back recording TikToks. Who knows?
I don't know. It was a gut punch, and I don't know what was going on in the back. I don't. My purpose in it is just for the system to work better. I've seen how it affects people. I've seen how it negatively affects clients and their families and kids, and I want it to work better.
Same.
So and there were judges over there holding hearings. There were judges that were working very hard. This certainly doesn't apply to everybody, but it was just shocking how few there were in the courthouse, and how the divisions were closed, locked, lights off. On entire floors, there was not even a light on. Outside in the lobby there were, but nowhere else.
And I think it's funny, the funny aspect of it, because I think these judges are starting to take notice, and I think they're starting to be like, is this serious? But we were recording in front of the courthouse, just reporting on what we saw, and like the public defender's office came out and were like watching us, and and then I had a guy come up to me and was like, "Hey, I follow your TikToks." So, there are people that are very, very, very interested in this, and this is very grassroots, and it really is the beginning. I mean, this is like the beginning of July. I'd say we partnered up. Has it even been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe? I don't even know. It's been like a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's been a short period of time.
But I'd say that since we launched Judgy, which we are still looking for stories, we want to hear your stories. But since that time, tens of thousands of messages, whether it be emails, calls, DMs, reaching out, touching, those sorts of things. it's just really hard to quantify how many people have been affected. And I'm going to be brutally honest, we don't know what to do with all of it. It's been too much.
Yeah, we haven't been able to reach out to a small percentage of
Mhm.
people so far. I knew there was something going on here, and
Mhm.
the number of people that are making content about it and talking about some of the injustices, made me know that we were tapping into something that there was a lot of there were a lot of stories, so there was a lot of emotion going on. I had absolutely no idea that the first day that we launched, our inboxes were flooded and the phones were just ringing.
Hundreds the first day.
Like, if if somebody wanted to take an angle like this as a law firm, they could generate so many
yeah.
clients. And I find that one of the things we've had to say is we're not giving legal advice on this. We're trying to tell stories. We're trying to shine light on something, but it's really, really shocking.
And just
I
so
mean,
everyone knows too, we've done no promotional post. I mean, the billboard went up, but I have not done any sort of advertising online. I mean, really, when I say grassroots, and I do think we got to amp stuff up. And if you would like to volunteer in any capacity, it's Miller Time Louisville. DM me or Judging the Judges on Instagram. That's the best way to reach me. Independently, if you want to sign or you want some drop cards, but we're going to keep going. I had a thought, but I lost it. I think I've had half of a country boy, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, you promoted Country
Delicious.
Boy. I'm drinking the Apollo IPA from Apocalypse Brewing, and it is quite tasty as well. So
I really did forget how good these are.
We need some justice. What? When I describe justice,